Welcome back to Torn Apart News, the only place on the internet where we tear the news apart bit by bit until we can finally go into the spring season and finally be over with catching colds, because I have a cold right now. It's incredibly annoying.
1 to 10, how would you rate your pain? Physical or emotional? Ow! You do have a mild allergy to peanuts. No! God, please, no! No!
Thank you for being here, and today we're talking about The Crow. We've got a new adaptation which kind of came out of nowhere. We have finally a trailer, we have a poster for it, and I thought we might look back at the past, at the comic book, the source material, but also the original movie and all the movies that followed to find out whether we actually need a remake of The Crow. The original movie came out in 1994 and it was starring Brandon Lee and it was directed by Alex Proyas, and it's probably one of his only good films. He was adapting a really dark and tragic comic book which came out in 1989. It kind of had the style of almost a Tim Burton Batman movie. It was very edgy, it was very emo, and probably became a cult classic mostly because of the tragic death of Brandon Lee during the production of the movie itself. Because honestly, if you look at other things like Spawn, I don't think that The Crow is as good as people remember, but it's still quite cool, don't get me wrong. But maybe general audiences don't know this, but there have been quite a lot of sequels that no one has ever heard of before and no one has watched, so let's have a look at them. The first sequel came out in 1996 and it's called The Crow City of Angels. The next one came out in the year 2000 and it's called The Crow Salvation, and the one after it's called Wicked Prayer and it came out in 2005. Of course, none of these are actually canon, as in they're not actual sequels from the first movie. They're kind of like new adventures with new actors every single time, and they have incredibly poor reviews every single time. It's kind of hilarious when you think about it. So here we are in 2024 with a new adaptation starring Bill Skarsgård, and it's directed by Rupert Sanders.
You have no idea what hell awaits you.
No, I do.
How many people have you loved?
And of course we can't be worried about it, mostly because of Rupert Sanders himself, who has only directed two other movies, which are the masterpieces Snow White and the Huntsman and the live-action adaptation of Ghost in the Shell. It's kind of hilarious because when you Google Rupert Sanders, you can't really find pictures of him working on films. You mostly find pictures of him with Kristen Stewart, because he basically became famous because he was having an affair with her while being married at the same time, and it's actually quite funny that still in 2024 we're still talking about it. So weird. So if you look at those films, it's kind of obvious that this is not gonna be a cult classic, but if you look at the trailer, I mean, it seems quite bloody, it seems to have quite an interesting performance by Bill Skarsgård, but I'm also not entirely sure this is gonna be good. This looks like a very bland action movie. This doesn't really feel like The Crow. The city itself feels like a very gangster type city. The action sequences don't really feel very memorable. I was mostly attracted to the blood and the gore that might come out of this movie because they put quite some money into the stunt action sequences and the effects themselves. So this is probably gonna be the only new thing about this new adaptation of The Crow. It has a $50 million budget, which is actually quite low when you think about it. But in case you know nothing about this movie, it's basically about a murdered musician who is resurrected to avenge the deaths of himself and his fiancée, who is gonna be played by FKA Twigs. It's gonna come out on June 7th, and let's manage our expectations because I'm pretty sure that this is the classic fun movie to watch at home, disappointing movie to watch at the cinema. Let's head into our next piece of news and talk about Scream 7 once again. We have some breaking news. Neve Campbell has officially come back to the franchise. She signed on for the new movie, and she's also signed on for a movie that is gonna be written and directed by Kevin Williamson. You might know him mostly because he's written literally the first, the second, and the fourth Scream movies, which are, well, arguably the best ones. And he was also the executive producer on 5 and 6. So the only movie that he really didn't participate in was Scream 3. And you could see that. Scream 3 was a bit of a mess when you think about it. I actually have an entire episode of Torn Apart News where I talked about all of the different controversies surrounding the production of Scream 7. So I'm gonna link you to that one because there's quite a lot of things to talk about. And of course, the fans on Twitter, they already voiced their opinions, and most of them, they don't care about Neve Campbell coming back. They're of course happy for her, but at the same time, they're asking themselves, why are you not supporting Melissa Barrera? Why are you not supporting Jenna Ortega as well? Why are you just coming back? Because now it almost seems like a conspiracy where you wanted everyone else that stole your spotlight gone from the movie, so you could come back and be the only Scream Queen remaining, which is an awkward position to be in. And then we're gonna be talking about a movie called Wildcat, which is written and directed by Ethan Hawke. It's his directorial debut, and it's also starring his daughter Maya Hawke, who you might know because she played a really cool character in Stranger Things.
I can never seem to escape myself unless I'm writing. And strangely, I'm never more myself than when I'm writing.
And she's a really good actress, I think, and you could really tell just by looking at this trailer where she's really transformed herself. She's lost most of her manic Gen Z teenagers mannerisms, and she's gone method acting, and she looks like a completely different person, and this seems quite cool. It follows the life of a writer called Flannery O'Connor while she was struggling to publish her first novel. I really like the way this movie looks, and I also like the idea of exploring the lives of female writers who maybe have not been studied quite as much as male writers, especially if we talk about classical literature and stuff that everybody knows about. It's coming out on May 3rd, and I'm definitely interested in knowing more about it. Now let's head into our bonus news. This is the moment where I try to rapid fire as many news about the movie and TV industry as fast as possible so that you can go back to your own lives.
Finally!
Let's start by talking about the new posters of the movie Harold and the Purple Crayon, which is coming out on August 2nd. It's starring Zachary Levi, and the original book is about a young boy named Harold embarking on a magical adventure with the help of his purple crayon, and it's this guy. It's a 4-year-old, so I really don't understand why Zachary Levi is playing this character, and this seems incredibly cringy. We've got a new poster for X-Men 97, which is coming out in just 2 days. It looks so beautiful, so nostalgic. I can't wait. We also just find out that the Batman's release date has been pushed by a year to October 2nd, 2026. And this is mostly to do because of the script and also because of the writer strikes from last year. We have a new trailer for Chris Pine's directorial debut, and it's called The Poolman, and it's coming out on May 10th. And according to a lot of critics, this is a very cringy movie, but I appreciate the effort. It seems fun, to be honest, and it's starring a lot of really cool actors that we don't get to see that much on our screens. And we also have some breaking news concerning a new movie directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, which is called Kinds of Kindness, and it's coming out on June 21st. We don't know that much about it. It's quite cryptic, and it's gonna be 3 different stories in an anthology format, and it's starring quite a lot of famous people like Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, Hunter Schafer, Hong Chow, Margaret Qualley, and it's also the return of Efthymios Philippou, who is the writer of most of the weirdest Lanthimos movies that you might like Dogtooth, Ops, and The Lobster, and he basically didn't work with him just for Poor Things and The Favorite. I'm glad they're coming back together. This is gonna be a really weird one. We've got some casting news concerning the Among Us animated series. Randall Park is gonna be playing Red, Elijah Wood is gonna be playing Green, Ashley Johnson Purple, and Yvette Nicole Brown as Orange, and we know nothing else about it, but we do know that Salem's Lot is officially coming out this year, but on HBO Max. I talked about it on a previous episode of Torn Apart News, if I'm not mistaken. It's gonna be directed by Gary Doberman, and it's of course yet a new adaptation of a Stephen King's novel. In my opinion, it should have been a TV series, mostly because I read the book just a couple of months ago, and it's just impossible to do it justice in just even a 2-hour movie. And then we've got a first poster for Rebel Moon Part 2, which is coming out on April 19, and the trailer trailer is apparently coming out today, so I might add it to the description once it's out there. I was kind of hoping we might have a look at the R-rated director's cut version of part 1 before part 2 came out, mostly because I really didn't enjoy part 1, and now I have no incentive to actually watch part 2. Apparently the director's cut version of this movie is coming out in the summer. Maybe it's gonna be a full-length version of both parts together. Who knows, at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be watching that instead of settling for something that I know I'm not gonna enjoy, which is part 2. Now let's head into my favorite segment of the week, which is called And for Something Weird. This is a moment where we look at something weird that happened this week within the movie and TV industry, and I would like to take some time to look at the most awkward, the most cringy posters that were used for the marketing campaign for Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. These are all incredibly bad, and honestly, I don't want to watch that movie after seeing these posters. But anyways, that was basically it concerning all the news of this week. Don't forget to tune in next Monday for some more movie news. I'm Patrick, and this is Torn Apart News.
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show.
Da 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 da. Da 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 da.